Welcome to Ask Logic, the video series where we're answering your questions. I'm Todd Smith and I'll be your host. Throughout this video series, we're going to cover things that we're experts in. So SEO, web design, web development, PPC, social media, photography, and videography. That's why we wanted to start Ask Lifted Logic, to help serve out content to people who aren't just our clients. Because the more you guys know, the better decisions you can make. Welcome to our first episode of Ask Lifted Logic. Today's episode's focusing on SEO. Next to me, I have residential Lifted Logic SEO expert, Becca, aka best friend Becca. Becca, tell us a little about yourself.
I am the content strategist at Lifted Logic. For over a year, I've been working with clients on content writing, copywriting, SEO, general marketing strategy, email newsletters. If you can think of anything that has to do with strategy or marketing, I've probably been involved here. And now I run a whole nice and smooth churning department of bloggers and PPC specialists. So I love it here. I moved to Kansas City about a year and a half ago and immediately started at Lifted Logic with no time to unpack. Yeah. So it's been a wild ride. I had a background in social media and event marketing before I came here. So kind of just expanding a lot of my knowledge base since I've started, which I love.
Nice. Yeah. So you seem like you'll be really qualified to answer the question, what is SEO? What does that even stand for?
I appreciate you thinking that.
I hope so. Otherwise I picked the wrong expert.
So SEO is search engine optimization. So anytime someone searches something on the web and you want to show up for it, that's basically what we do at Lifted Logic. Or at least that's a large part of what I do. So I'm taking a lot of the strategy meetings that I take with clients. I'm asking them questions about their target market, the kinds of words that people are using to search for them already if they have an idea, general past marketing efforts, anything that I can do to absorb as much as I can about who they are and what they do. That will help me kind of do additional research on how to optimize their future website or their future blog post or any other content that they want to put out for that specific key phrase.
Yeah, so when you say optimize, it's basically figuring out what the key phrase for each page they're trying to show up for is, and then making sure that page is as relevant as possible for that search term?
Yeah, so there's a long process involved, but essentially we want to say this page we want to show up for this key phrase. So we'll do research on what kind of things people are already using, what kind of words people are already using to search for that service or product. And then we want to make sure that we're incorporating specific language into the web copy and making sure that the site is functional, it's loading really fast. All these technical things and all these creative things come together in SEO, and it's really cool to see when clients actually have success with it.
Yeah. So which
is a lot of times.
Yeah. So is it possible to show up on Google first without having to pay for it?
Yes, absolutely. There's a lot of strategy and research that goes into it, but depending on the words that you're picking, your target market, what you want the user to find when they actually get to your site, we can get to the first spot most of the time. However, that's not the only thing that really goes into what makes a website successful. I think that's what a lot of clients have confusion about when they come to us is I want to show up first. Well, what does that actually mean? What you're actually trying to tell us is that you want more leads. But for us, getting number one in ranking is not necessarily going to get you more leads. Mm. So there's a lot more that goes into it. SEO is definitely a great first step, but that's why we have whole other departments and whole other teams that work on other things for your website because SEO is not the only thing that's going to get you leads.
Nice. So SEO is search engine optimization. Does that mean all search engines are the same?
For the most part, Google, Yahoo, Bing.
I read people still use Bing the other day. Yeah. I was surprised.
They do, and we still see it trickle through Yahoo and Bing in the analytics of our clients' accounts. But for the most part, people are using Google. Bing is basically the default search engine on a lot of PCs, and so that's what ends up happening a lot of the time is users don't feel like downloading Chrome or another browser, and they end up using whatever comes on their computer, which happens to be Bing. A lot of times, the results will look exactly the same or nearly the same. Mm-hmm. Yahoo and Bing use similar algorithms to Google, But Google is definitely a lot more comprehensive in their results. So they'll show local listings, they'll show related search terms. Yahoo and Bing are just a little bit behind the curve on that.
Nice. So if you're optimized for Google, you should, for the most part, be optimized for Bing and Yahoo.
Yeah, essentially they work the same.
Nice. Is there an easy way to know what people are searching for?
Easy is a funny word. If I told everyone it was easy, then my job would be almost irrelevant. Not really, but kind of.
I mean, it's like anything else, right? It's easy when you know how to do it every day.
Yeah. Because I do it every day.
If you're willing to spend the time.
You have to have the right tools, and you also have to understand a few core principles about SEO, the biggest one being user intent. A lot of times people want to show up for a word or phrase, but they either don't know why or don't know what content to serve people when they get there. So user intent is basically thinking through the lens of the person searching for that key phrase and saying, if I were typing this into Google, what do I actually want to find in my results?
Mm-hmm.
And then making sure that your website reflects that. So let's see if I can think of an example. If someone is searching for hairdresser in Kansas City, they want to find a specific hairdresser, probably the best one, or like based on ratings, just because they're looking for a single hairdresser. Now, if the key phrase changes to hairdressers in Kansas City, plural, they probably want to see a Yelp list of multiple hairdressers that they can see reviews and pictures. Yeah, because the intent is different. So even the little things where it might not seem like a different word or phrase to most people, it's my job to kind of figure out if it actually is different and what people are expecting to find when they search for something.
A really good example of that is when people talk about location. So certain things are going to be global, certain things are going to be more national, certain things are going to be local. Like if you're looking for a haircut stylist, you're probably not looking for one more than 20 minutes from where you live. So when we work with people who are very localized in their services, it's very important to quantify where they are through like the content on the site, through the schema markup, through all that kind of stuff. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. We call it localizing. So basically making sure that the content on your site and all of the markup and everything you just said, even as far as like making sure that your address is properly displayed in the footer and it matches everywhere else on the web. All of those things are going to help contribute to making sure that people in your area are going to find you, even if you can't compete on a global scale for a key phrase.
How important is it for your title, the link of the URL, and then the content on the site to match?
So Google has come out in the last couple of months and kind of said that it's not as important. That's just like a basic principle of SEO that we a lot of times stick to. But for example, like we're human beings. And so reading something, even if it's written for SEO, there's a line between what I want to see as a user and what search engines want to read in order to find you and to properly place you in rankings. So if my URL is /webdesign in Kansas City /services/webdesign in Kansas City, that's kind of a mouthful for a person.
Yeah, bad
for a human being.
Bad for the user, good for search engines. But I think a lot of the balance in what you do really, really well is figuring out how to do both.
Yeah.
Which is kind of like leads into the next question of, can you do this yourself or do you need to hire a company to do it?
That is a good question. There are a ton of free resources and tools on the web that you can use to learn SEO and optimize your content. I would say the benefit of having an expert do it for you is not only are you probably busy doing other things as a business owner or a startup or a practice manager or whoever you are, you probably have clients to see or patients to see and you don't have time, or you are going to spend a lot of time doing it only to find out that, oops, something has actually changed since the last article that you read came out and now you have to switch everything. The trouble with finding resources on the web for SEO is that everyone has an opinion about it and they're all a little bit different. So when we do things at Lifted Logic, the SEO strategy is more of like finding truth in the middle. And we have spent years finding that truth and hearing all of the different perspectives, actually testing things out and seeing how it works on our clients and making sure that like what advice we're giving actually works for people. And so you can technically do a lot of things on your own. And especially if you've come through a training with us, you should have those technical kind of pieces in place to be able to do it yourself. But a lot of times you should at least seek the advice of an expert or two to make sure that your strategy is on point, you're doing things correctly, and they're looking over your work.
Yeah. Can one blog make a difference?
It can.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because basically how it works is each page of your site, including posts, blog posts, have its own key phrase that you want to optimize for. That's the strategy that we take. There are a bunch of different strategies where you can try to optimize for multiple key phrases on one page, but just for the sake of the argument, let's say you post one blog with one key phrase. So that's actually like a key phrase that theoretically would not have been anywhere else on your site yet. And maybe it didn't get as much traffic as some of the key phrases that you've already used on your, main pages of your site, but you still want that traffic, and especially if it's local. So pulling that information, writing a really good blog post that's the grammar is on point, the syntax, your voice and tone, you have a clear call to action, all of this stuff that goes into making a really good blog post, and it's optimized for SEO. That will generate new traffic to your site.
Yeah. So the SEO is like helping you blog posts be found, but the content on the page is still really, really, really important. It's kind of what we talked earlier about being first on Google or being eighth or whatever. You want to be found, but once you're there, the content has to be good. And I think a lot of people get caught up in like SEO and being first, that sometimes they don't think about what's actually on the page. If it's not relevant or if it's wrong, you're going to do more harm than good. And I think we see that quite a bit with a lot of the clients who come in. They do the best they can, but they just don't know. So like for us, we're always trying to find that. How do we get people to the site? But then once they're there, how do we get them what they're looking for? I know we have one client who's a home builder here in KC, and they last year had a blog post. It was how to silence a beeping smoke detector. They got 25,000 users over the course of the year, which is insane. So you had 25,000 people from across the country who would never have found their site that they did through one blog. So you never really know the power of a blog. We can do a lot of research into what people are searching, but if it's not on the site, it won't show up.
Yep.
I think another question that we get a lot is, you talked a little bit about blogs versus site content. Is one more important than the other, or are they both equally important? Which one should I focus on first?
Good question. The jury is out on this one, but in my personal opinion, I think that blog content can be just as helpful, if not more helpful, to the success of your site than a regular page.
Can you give me an example of like what would be like a main site page versus what would a blog post be?
Yeah. So we work with a lot of med spas, and one of the most popular things that they do is laser hair removal. So the page you want optimized for your area, laser hair removal. So
people finding that service can find it.
Yep, exactly. And on that page, depending on how in-depth you want to go with your users, you can explain how it works, just very high level. We like to stick to between 300 to 500 words per website page. And I know that doesn't mean a lot to a lot of people because words are confusing. And sometimes I have a page with 300 words on it, and sometimes I have a page with 100. So it kind of depends. But that's just the general rule of thumb is 300 to 500 words. Whereas a blog, you can write 3,000 words. And so the more content that you can provide is going to be more helpful for a search engine, but also for a user looking for a specific question. So let's say that the laser hair removal page is optimized for laser hair removal in Kansas City. You want your blog post to be some kind of variation of that, or a long tail key phrase. So not just laser hair removal, but is laser hair removal permanent? How much does laser hair removal cost? The questions that you're always getting, you can answer that in a blog and really flesh it out and give people the answer that you want to read on the web if you were to search for that, without taking up the real estate of a nicely designed page.
Nice. Does good SEO replace the need for paid advertising? So Google AdWords, remarketing, social media, do those work together or like compete against each other?
So they definitely don't compete against each other. Depending on your market, your target market, your industry, how competitive your audience is for that particular key phrase or topic. A lot of times SEO works in concert with PPC. So they're working together to kind of build a more holistic strategy for your marketing. If people are limited by budget, a lot of times SEO is really all they can do, which is more of their time than their money. PPC is really pay to play. So you're spending that money and it's gone. You can't get it back unless you convert your ad. And so you don't know a lot of times what's going to convert and what doesn't until you've spent months worth of advertising spend, making sure that your ads are optimized and collecting data. SEO, usually once it's there, it's not going to go away, especially if it's a really long blog. Like I said before, the 3,000 words, that might not go anywhere for a while. But for the most part, you want to make sure that you have a healthy balance of both. Sometimes it's really nice that paid advertising, you can pivot really quickly. So if you have an event coming up and maybe you planned it at the last minute and you don't really have time to post something for SEO that's going to get indexed by the search engine in time to actually populate that in search results, you can actually just run an ad for it and know that your content will go up immediately.
Nice. So if you had, because obviously the business owners have a limited budget, very few companies have unlimited money.
Right.
And if you do, liftedlogic.com, and just hit us up. But for real though, if you have a limited budget, would you recommend putting most of that toward focusing on good SEO? Would you include social? Would you include paid? Is it honestly a combination of all of them? Or does it matter?
That's a very large question.
Yeah.
And it's going to depend on the client, how long they've been in business, how long their website has been around, how good their website content is. A lot of the times our strategy centers around a website because that's where we really started and that's where we've seen the most success for our clients. And so it's really dependent on the health of your website and how efficient it is already.
That's another, and not to dive too much into the PPC stuff, but how good your website is directly impacts how much you pay.
Absolutely.
Whereas you could have a terrible looking website, but your SEO could still be good. So if you have a terrible website, maybe SEO is more where you want to start. Another question that we get a lot is, do links matter? Everyone always says you want to internal link, backlink, all that stuff. Does it actually matter? Or is that just a giant waste of time?
So I like to think about linking like networking. And a link is basically, in this metaphor, a business card. So if I get a business card from an intern, it's not going to be the same as if I got a business card from a CEO at a networking event. The CEO's business card has more value to me. And the links are the same way. So links are good if they're coming from the right places. This is where link farms used to happen. So you would buy thousands and thousands of links and basically
It upped your SEO.
It upped your SEO. And Google figured out that this was happening and basically wrote it into their algorithm to try to stop this. So instead, they look at the quality of the sites that are linking to you and also the anchor text that's actually being hyperlinked. That's super technical, but basically they want to know what people are linking to you for and who's actually linking to you.
So wait, you don't recommend putting click here on a link?
Absolutely not. Try Googling click here sometime. It's fun.
Yeah. What's the best way to go out and get links? Is there one? Is there a recommended strategy for that?
There are a bunch of different things that you can do to get links to your site. The best place to start usually for a smaller company or a startup that doesn't have a ton of resources or time is social media. Those do count. And the more people that share your content, the better. Does
each link that you put out count as a link, or is it Facebook links to you once versus Facebook links to you 55 times, it's still one?
No, it's the amount of times that they link to you.
Nice.
Yep. And depending on the basically spam score of that site. So social media, it's a lower spam score, so it's safer to do that, but it also doesn't have as much value in Google's eyes because they know there's constant sharing happening on those platforms. So, but Reddit, for example, that's another social media that you can use. But beyond that, a lot of it, what the hard thing about getting links is that it's really it takes a lot of time. It's very involved because you're essentially networking. You want to meet people that you can exchange links with. You can find influencers or posting comments on local news websites that link back to your site. As much as the more involved you can be with linking, the better.
Do you feel that companies that have most success with linking are usually ones who outsourced that part of the SEO? Or do you think they do that internally?
A lot of times it's just based on reputation. If you've been around a really long time, you've always had the same domain name, those are going to naturally happen because you're out in the community, you've been around a long time, so you're a resource. That's, again, going back to why we like posting content so much on a site, is because it, again, gives people more of an excuse or an opportunity to like link back to your website. And that's always good for just your overall like website success.
Yeah. I get a lot of questions asking about domain authority. What is that? And does it actually matter?
So domain authority is actually a proprietary metric from Moz, which is basically the lead SEO tool that's available right now. They have a ton of good resources on changes in Google algorithms and just general SEO tidbits. They do a Whiteboard Friday, which is really fun.
They have a really good blog, by the way.
Check it out.
If you're into SEO at all or just curious.
Tons of like professional SEOs from all over the country post on that blog, and it's always really helpful. So they basically created this metric to try to essentially guess what Google will rank you. It's a number from 0 to 100, and let's say you have a domain authority of 20. It's really a comparative metric. So you can look and say this domain authority is 20, that's okay. But if all of your competitors are at 5, then you know you're doing pretty well. So really it's meant to be compared. So looking at, if you look at Yelp or another like local listing site, it might be higher up because of all of the linking that they've done over the years. And domain authority is really determined by linking profiles. So how many people are linking to you? What's their spam score? What kind of content is on your site? There's a ton of stuff that goes into it, and they're constantly adjusting it. But it is a pretty good indicator of like the general success of your website. Yeah.
So like your domain authority is going to help dictate like how high you show up. And that's going to factor in things like linking, the key phrasing, all that stuff.
Yep.
Cool. I guess I think my last question I have for like this SEO section is, if you could give, they can only take one thing away from this entire video, what would it be?
No pressure.
Yeah, no pressure. I'm putting you on the spot.
I would say just thinking through what people want to see on your site versus what you think should be on there. That's an argument that I have a lot with clients, and I almost always convince them, but not always. Basically, you want to think through, like I talked about before, you want to think through user intent, so what people want to find on your site and what they don't want to find. Because that's really going to, like, at the end of the day, you can rank first, but if you're not getting any more leads than you were before, then there's really no point in putting in all this extra work, right? So number one is just kind of like thinking through your user's experience on the web and how it might benefit them, and not just to get the word out about you. That makes sense.
It does. It does. I'm just gonna throw a wrench in this because I thought of another question as you were talking. We've talked a lot about SEO, about blogging, about getting people to the site. Once they're there and reading the blog, how do I make them a customer?
So SEO is basically getting them to your site, right? Being first in the ranking or second or third. But once you get them on there, again, it goes back to what they want to see and how you can be most helpful to them. So a lot of times we'll recommend that a blog post will explain a topic in complete detail, even if you don't offer 100% of those products or services. Just giving a really comprehensive answer is what's going to get you more views, basically.
It helps you be like seen as like an authority.
Yeah.
An expert.
Exactly. So even if people aren't ready to make a purchase just yet, they're going to think of you the next time they are more ready to do that.
Is it spammy to have like a call to action or anything like that on a blog?
There should always be a call to action on every blog. Yeah. So when a user scrolls to the bottom of a page and gets to a footer without any clue as to what to do next, they're a lot more likely to leave. And that's true if you think about your own experience. Like if I'm going to a site and I get the answer that I need, I don't really have any more reason to be there. But if it's a local reference and they're telling me, actually, if you want to know more about this, you can either reach out to us, you can use our helpful online tool. There's something else that I can do to take action on that site. Chances are I'm going to stay on there longer, or at least appreciate the fact that they're giving me direction, because as we all know, opening a website is kind of like opening a door. You walk in and a lot of times you go, what was I doing in here?
Yeah.
So helping people through that process and helping guide their experience is always really helpful.
Cool. Well, Becca, thank you for taking the time today with us.
Thanks for quizzing me.
Yeah. Hey, you can stay employed here. You seem like you know your stuff.
I passed.
Well, that'll do it for this episode of Ask Lifted Logic. Just remember, if you guys have any questions, just feel free to hashtag AskLL, and we'll get to them as soon as we can. Feel free to share this. Feel free to like this. Have a great rest of the day, guys. Feel free to hashtag AskLL on social media, and we'll get to them as quickly as we can. But keep in mind, there are no stupid questions, especially in the digital space.